Hello and welcome back to our second collaboration video between myself, Chaos Squirrel, and the PVL. Today we will be reviewing the PVL playoffs between Infamous and ATF. The format of the video will be I first go over the draft of all three games and the result of all three games, and finally we will wrap up by covering a kind of lesson learned or something that I think could be improved upon by ATF in this case, which is taking the first dragon. Anyways, I hope you enjoy, and if you do, please remember to like and subscribe. Here we are at the end of Game 1's draft phase. Let's break down the comps real quick. If I look at this, I am favoring ATF. The reason why is they should win both side lanes with Telonis and Marja having advantage over the Scud and most likely Kresh, maybe Aram, but probably Scud and Kresh. Mid, kind of even. But the other reason that I choose ATF is they just have an easier comp to play. Like there's not skill shots that really need to be landed in the same way as they need to be landed on Infamous. For instance, like Slims can be a beast, but he has to land his spear. Liliana, same thing, a lot of skill shot micromanagement. Whereas Telonis just kind of shoots. Jinnar, same thing, kind of push a button, dive in. Marja, same thing. So anyways, in this game, I definitely favor ATF. And once again, the main reasons are I think they'll win both side lanes, which is going to create big pressure. And they also have a very nice full game balance. They have early game fighting, they have mid game fighting with Jinnar, and they have late game power with Telonis. So I think they just have a really nice power curve as a team also. Okay, so here we are with the results of Game 1. As predicted, ATF did win. It was a close game throughout the match. It did go back and forth, and it kind of did just stall out until the end. Marja gave Infamous a lot of problems. She was split pushing the whole game and getting a lot of value. But overall, I wanted to talk about builds real quick. The game did really go late. Look at the gold on everybody. And if you notice, Jinnar did not even buy a 6th item. He still has Phoenix tier, which he didn't upgrade into anything. And ideally, he would have sold that and bought a 6th item, especially with 14k gold. So that was definitely a mistake there. Some other interesting note is on the Telonis. If you notice, bought Curse of Death right here as the 5th item. It doesn't really make sense. None of the enemies really have any sort of life stealing or heavy regen abilities, so that item could have definitely, that money and that item slot could have went to something with to like help out more, maybe like Omnis or something, just to give Telonis more burst. And then the last thing that I will note is Aram chose to get Gilded Greaves. I think she did that because of the Marja and Jinnar, so that's okay. But at the same time, late game when you have all this gold, the Telonis was really dominating. If you look at the score, has 7 of the kills, whereas Jinnar has none, and the Marja had 3. But so maybe think about switching out those boots. But that one's not as big of a deal to me as the Telonis and Jinnar. And Jinnar, definitely the not buying a 6 items a major issue. Okay, so here's the results for Game 2's draft. As a note, there actually was a prior draft for Game 2, but one of the teams selected Richter, and he wasn't allowed for PVL play because he hasn't been out long enough, so they redrafted, and anyways, this was the result. In this case, I favor Infamous because a few things. So once again, they have the late game power. They have the Telonis this game. Whereas if you look at ATF's composition, they don't really have late game power. Their power spike is going to come mid game with Jinnar and Lindis really come online. Ari, same thing. She's powerful earlier in the game, mid game, but towards the end of the game, things are going to get harder for her. Supports wise, it's pretty even. Mid lane wise, Jinnar is going to have nice push. Raz issue with Raz is he has very bad wave clear, so ATF's win condition will be winning the early dragon, the first dragon in the game. If they don't do that and they don't kind of snowball from there, I almost guarantee Infamous will win. But overall, the final reason I really favor Infamous here is, once again, easy characters. Raz is very micro-intensive, but he's the only one on the team out of all the other 4 characters that are micro-intensive, whereas on ATF side, Roxy, she is micro intensive in that her ultimate is what really brings value to fights and engagements. And if she doesn't land that, Roxy becomes much less effective and useful in team fights. And same thing for Ari. Ari is very micro intensive with the dashing and the timing of her ultimate. So I just think they have characters that require more micro. So I also tend to lean towards Infamous in that regard as well. Okay, here we are with the results of Game 2. Things did not go ATF's way. They did lose the first dragon, and the game just kind of snowballed against them. And like we talked about, ATF kind of had a timer comp, and what I mean by that is they needed to win the early and especially mid-game and snowball the game in their favor because they don't have the late-game power. So anyways, that didn't pay off, and Game 2 went to Infamous. Finally, we have Game 3. Once again, I favor Infamous because they have a nice smooth power curve team-wise. They have early, mid, and late game power. The second reason that I favor them is that, once again, Infamous took a comp that just outscales ATF late game. I don't like that ATF allowed this to happen again. In Game 2, this also happened. And the only game where they won, they had the more powerful late game heroes. The reason that I think this really matters is that so far in Game 1 and Game 2 is ATF have lost the first dragon. And the problem with that is if you lose the first dragon, your mid game is going to be put behind the enemy team. So with ATF taking timer comps in Game 2 and here in Game 3, they're basically saying that we have to win the dragon because if we don't, we've conceded mid game power and the enemy team is going to do even better in late game. So it's not that they can't win if they give over the first dragon in terms of ATF. It's just that it's going to be so much harder and they're going to have to play so much better than the enemy team. Okay, as you can see, Game 3 kind of went as predicted. Infamous just basically snowballed early and just carried that on. And ATF just never had a chance to really get back in this game. At certain points, they put up a good fight, but overall, they just really didn't stand a chance. Builds-wise, the only thing I would really point out is if you notice on Val right here, he bought Blitzblade as the 4th item, whereas Talanis bought it as her 1st item. The reason I point that out is because Blitzblade, the reason it's needed on Marksman is for clear speed. One place where marksmen struggle compared to, say, a mage is their clear speed because they're based on auto attack damage. Blitzblade is very helpful to clear wave. So the reason that that is going to matter is because whoever clears wave first can roam first. So when Talanis and Val are going against each other, Talanis at a certain point was just clearing waves so quickly, and then Val is just going to have some issues there. So anyways, builds-wise, that's really all I would point out. Nothing else here really stands out is anything too crazy to me. Okay, for this week, I decided to discuss Dragon, the first dragon of each game. The reason for that is because Infamous wins every single dragon across all 3 games. And another reason that really matters is ATF took the weaker late game composition in 2 out of the 3 games. And if you were going to take a weaker late game composition, you really need to win the dragon because the dragon is what is going to explode into your mid game power. So if you were taking a team comp that explodes mid game and needs to snowball and win before the other team builds up that power spike late game, then you really need to secure the dragons. So anyways, we're going to go over each of the 3 dragons and discuss why ATF lost the dragon. So in this case, what we're watching is keep an eye on Arduin. So Arduin is the support, and if you notice, he gets low, and he's also not dragon side, right? So I think Infamous makes a really good call, is they say, hey, we just saw the support really low, and he's also Darkslayer side, so you know what, let's collapse in and grab dragon. And then if you notice, they collapse in, ATF really can't contest. I don't fault them for not contesting. I think if they would have contested, they would have just simply fed over a kill. But in that case, ATF lost the dragon mainly because Arduin, one was on the opposite side of the map. He was on the Darkslayer side of the map instead of the dragon side. And another reason is that he simply just got too low on his health pool and had to go back. So really the only thing that could be improved upon that is in the future if Arduin would just kind of be more careful about minimizing the amount of poke he takes before the dragon. So in this game, the dragon take wasn't honestly, this was just Infamous playing well and being smart. Here we are leading into Game 2's first dragon take. Once again, Infamous is going to take the dragon, and I think it happens mainly for two key reasons, and we are going to go over those. So right now, if you look at the minimap, you notice the dragon is coming up in 3 seconds. Kriknak is coming to bottom, and if you notice, Roxy has already pushed the wave to tower. So the first mistake that's going to happen is, if you are dragon side, you should always know that the junglers are going to tend to come to your lane to gank right before dragon because they want to get a kill and then they can secure dragon more safely. So Roxy clears the wave and it looks like she's backing off right now. Unfortunately, Roxy gets a little greedy, goes forward, and Kriknak and Tell do secure the kill. So that's the first mistake. Another mistake to me is Pura as a support, you want to control the dragon side river because it allows your team to path. So if you notice right now, ATF, the Lindis, and the Jinnar are stuck on Darkslayer slide, so they're going to need to come down this way to get to dragon. So they can either run through this bush or they're going to have to take a more safe way in their jungle or kind of a medium danger through here, right? So anyways, Pura is going to secure vision, and I'm glad because if you remember last game, Vadarung as support was on the Darkslayer side when the dragon fight happened. If you notice this game, actually Infamous's Mina is making the same mistake. She is Darkslayer side with vision instead of dragon side for vision. The problem with Pura's vision is instead of securing this bush to grab vision, she actually secures just the little bush, right? The problem with that is the little bush doesn't really help you that much because you have to take it from the point of view of Lindis and Jinnar. When they want to run through the river, the danger is that mid bush. Also there, if you notice, Lindis poorly timed using her S1, so she actually didn't get vision of this mid bush. But so if you notice right here, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Say Pura would have been controlling this bush. When Raz started to walk into this bush, Pura could have poked. Jinnar Lindis could have jumped on Raz, and basically he would have had to back away from the bush, and they would have secured the faster route to get into this dragon area right away. But right now, if you notice, Pura is actually going to be bullied and chipped away at, and Raz is just going to establish dominance. Another thing is, if we look bot now on the minimap, you can see what I was saying. Roxy got greedy. Roxy kind of pushed up too far. Kriknak and Tell simply jump, and bam, you see the kill, right? And then so Pura got scared out of that bush, and that is the two things that I think mainly contributed to losing this dragon, right? So Pura went to get the river control, right, like we talked about, but the positioning was a little off and their team had to give up that river dominance that Pura was trying to secure. And the other thing is Roxy pushed up and got killed. If I was going to rank it, Roxy's thing was a bigger deal, obviously, because it resulted in a death. But even if Roxy would not have died, just the fact that ATF had to give up the river control to Raz and the Infamous, I think that actually still would have resulted probably in a dragon anyways. Finally, we have Game 3's dragon, first dragon again. Here, if you notice, dragon's coming up in 28 seconds, and we're going to kind of go through again why. So if you notice, Val, I think, is making the same mistake. Remember last game, Roxy overextended right before dragon came up and got ganked. If you notice, Kriknak, who has a fast clear speed, has already cleared the jungle and is probably going dragon side again, and Val finds himself quite overextended. Fortunately for Val, Kriknak this time doesn't decide to go for the gank. I'm not really sure why, but he doesn't. But anyways, this is still bad positioning by ATF's Valheim, even though he doesn't get punished. The more important reason that the dragon take is going to happen this time is ATF simply just concedes the dragon because Zephy feels that Spirit Sentinel and pressure top is more important. This doesn't really make that much sense to me. So if you watch Zephy's now, he would be okay if he wasn't showing on the map, but he's actually going to make the mistake of going to clear wave. So right now, if you notice, Zephy's just cleared the top wave. So now the enemy Infamous knows that Zephy's is top, right? So what do? They do the exact right thing. They just, okay, fine, we'll take a free dragon. You can't possibly make it down here in time to contest. So Zephy's does make the choice to get the Spirit Sentinel, which is good, and then also they get a kill on Marja. Marja, that was bad positioning on her part, but at the same time, they did give up a free dragon. If you notice, the gold's about even because Marja did get killed. If Marja would have not tried to get overly aggressive with her positioning and just kind of checked if they're doing the Sentinel and backed off, then the gold would have went strongly in Infamous's favor again, just because Zephyr showed. So imagine if Zephyrs did not show top, right? If Infamous did not see that Zephyrs was top lane, they couldn't have just taken that dragon. So if Zephyrs wouldn't have showed, just let the lane, let the wave stay frozen, taken the Spirit Sentinel, and then started to rotate down with his team, then their team could end up with Spirit Sentinel and the dragon. So if you were the jungler, when the first dragon comes up, be very careful about the vision that you are giving the enemy team on you, because if they are good, which Infamous was in this case, they got confirmation that the enemy jungler is top, and they said, okay, cool, free dragon.